All right, well, welcome to another episode of Chestnut Checkers. My name is Keith Riddle, as always, here with my co-host Jordan Tampion. And today we have a very special guest who's near and dear to my heart. We've known each other a long time. Danielle Nishiyama.
So long.
And so long. I don't know your last name. I never say your last name.
It's
true.
Just
D. I call you D or Danielle. Yeah. And you're the owner of Craft Studio here in Spokane.
Yes.
And you have been for quite some time.
10 years. 2026 will be 10 years of being in our salon, in our space. And so that's like, it's fun to get to this mark. Like, it's like, I've been doing it for a while now.
I know. Well, and for frame of reference for the listeners, you're basically a small business owner, but you are in like the, what do you call your industry? Because I'm going to screw that one up.
The beauty industry.
The beauty industry.
Yeah, you're gonna
I wish I was in the beauty industry. Yes, in the beauty
better.
industry, I make people look beautiful.
I make people look and feel beautiful. Exactly. So it's a lot of fun, and I've been in the industry for almost 20 years. I've been a hairstylist for 17 years. I was trying to figure all this out last night. I was like, okay, I have to figure out how long I've been doing this. And then I've owned my salon for the last 10. And I think our industry is unique because similar to real estate, like it just breeds individual entrepreneurship. And so kind of figuring out how to lead a group of very individually, motivated people has been the main gig of the last 10 years, I think.
Yeah, I think that there's a ton of parallels between what we do and what you do in some sense, like the real estate, if you own a brokerage and if you own a salon, because your employees or they're 1099 contractors, really, right? Like
how many employees do you have?
I have, right now I believe I have around like 8 or 9, maybe 10 employees. And then I have 4 independent contractors. So we don't 1099 in our industry, which is kind of unique, but they can be a totally independent contractor where there's like different rules of even that with 1099.
Well, you don't have to 1099 because a lot of times we're like skipping way forward here, but they just like lease a chair, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So they kind of sublease a space in your salon, and then they have their own business.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So then I guess you wouldn't have to 1099 because you're almost like the landlord.
I am their
You're
landlord.
subleasing me.
Exactly. Yeah. That's how they look at it.
But before we jump right into that, one of the things I love about, I call it our story. It's not even Danielle's story.
It's
anymore.
our story.
We've known each other for so long. I met Danielle when you were probably like, what, 16?
16 years
like
old.
Super young.
Yeah.
And so in some way, shape, or form, almost kind of like grew up together. But like, to meet someone that young, it's a little bit different. Like I meet a lot of entrepreneurs that like I meet them when they already own their business or might be before they own their business, but I don't have any sort of like past tense with them. And then to watch anybody grow or develop businesses, in my opinion, is always super cool. But to watch Danielle's path has been really like cool. One is because you do my hair, right? So for all the people that are not watching on YouTube but might be listening on Spotify, or Danielle did not do my hair today, right? I did my hair today. So I was nervous today because Danielle always judges my hair because you leave when you leave.
So let's not limit that to just Danielle.
Well, when you leave the chair, you always look so great, and then I'm just like chasing that image for the next like 4 or 6 weeks until I get to see Danielle again. And so I know she judges my hair, so she does.
I judge everybody's hair.
So I was thinking this morning, I was like, Keith, you really need to like put some effort into your hair, because if Danielle's on the show and she does your hair, but then people see your hair not looking good, it could be a reflection on Danielle. So Danielle, I'm sorry because I failed you this morning because I was wearing a baseball hat before I realized this. I was like already in my truck driving to work, and I'm like, damn it, I need to go fix my hair.
Days.
Right. Anyways, so my hair is not a reflection on Danielle today.
Not today, it's not.
No.
But it looks great. It looks great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So back to my story of what's been really cool is I've known you for a long time and I get to see you, but also like I just feel like I've been with you on this little journey of entrepreneurship and business growth and development that you've been on. And it's really cool. It's like, I'm very proud to watch your growth, and we've had a ton of conversations about business and business development. And it's always interesting to watch people grow as human beings, like in life. Like, whether they're an auto mechanic or no matter what they do, but it's also really cool to watch somebody you've known for a long time grow, and like as a person, like as a leader. Like I've watched you grow as like that like deer in the headlight look. Like remember you telling me like, I'm going to start my own salon, and I'm like, me having done that before, you're like, oh my gosh, that's a huge undertaking. And then to watch you really kind of find your home, like you said, you've owned your own salon for over a decade. Yeah. And so it's just really cool to watch you like on that journey.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's been fun. And I would say the same thing. I think that like, because our history does span so long, 20 years ago, or 20 plus years ago. I mean, I remember when you were at school at Gonzaga and like waxing snowboards and like throwing ragers at your house every weekend.
Ragers, they were gatherings.
They would like jump off of buses, which I don't even know why they had buses out on the property.
Yeah. It was an RV, technically.
It was an RV. Okay. Yes, so, but yeah, just the evolvement, but owning a business and owning a company, as you guys know, it really is like not just, you can't just grow your business development. It really is like a spiritual and a personal development journey. And so
you have to grow as a
that's one
person.
of the best parts of it.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to grow as a person. And I think that's one of the most, I don't want to say under talked about things, but also I would say unforeseen or unknown things for people who are starting their entrepreneurial or small business journey is like putting that work into yourself, right? Like there's mastering your craft. You might tune snowboards, but you can be the best snowboard tuner in the world. But when you turn around and say, I'm going to own a ski tune business and I'm going to hire people and I'm going to train people and I'm responsible for payroll and do all that stuff, even that stuff's functional, right? But to be successful in, I think, small business space or any space of that requires leadership. And then it's kind of like, well, who are you as a human being, right? Like as a person, as a leader. And I think that's one of those things where I'm like, where do you go to train for that? And there are places, right?
Oh, you definitely can. Yeah, for sure.
There are definitely places that I think that are not necessarily available for most business owners, right? Like most business owners, you're either mentored by somebody who else is probably in your industry, right? Like you find a mentor, maybe a parent or somebody you end up, running into, or you don't, right? You kind of self-learn it, whether that's like books or so. That's a good question. So like, what have you done to grow yourself as kind of a leader in your organization in the last 10 years? Like, have you sought out specific things? I know you have, but I'm asking for the listener.
Yeah.
Or has it been like whimsical?
Too.
Yeah.
Both. I think that has been probably my biggest time and financial investment in the last 10 years in my business has been personal development and honestly learning how to run a business. Like I was just, like you said, I mastered the craft of doing hair and having really good rapport and having a full book of clients. That doesn't necessarily translate into being a good salon owner or a good salon leader. But you get into it and then you kind of get your sea legs and you figure it out. Within the first year or year and a half of owning the salon, I was getting my butt kicked and I also loved it so much. So I was like, I really have to invest in this and double down on it. So I got support in that. One of the most influential like trainings that I invested in was like a Tony Robbins business mastermind, which I mean, I don't know if that's cheesy. I've never known anybody else that's gone to it, but it was really one of the most empowering and like just helpful places.
Was it an event you had to go to or was it?
Yeah, it was like a 5-day immersion. And dude, he goes for like 12, 14 hours a day.
Oh, Tony's the man.
And I mean, it's so inspiring. And so that was an incredible experience. And then that really taught me how to like use a lot of resources and maximize and grow my business as thinking of it as just a business, not necessarily the beauty industry or salon. That's what I found is when I looked for salon industry mentors, especially early on, it wasn't as prevalent as like the coaching industry is now. And so I felt like I would reach a ceiling fairly quickly with that. And so I think being creative and finding people that are just leading businesses or leading things well, and then it's all relative. We have been able to find commonalities between real estate and the beauty industry in so many of our conversations. And I think, I don't know, I think that that's probably in every business. If you're into growing people and you are building something, then anybody who's doing it a little bit quicker, faster, or just has that experience in you is, I don't know, someone to watch. It gets easier now though with things like this, like podcasts and YouTube and social media, and just the way that we can connect with people. You, even if you can't afford to hire a business coach, you can dive so deep into just free resources and stretch your brain a little bit more and try something new.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
good enough momentum to get going.
Yeah, as far as accessibility to that sort of information, I think we're at like an all-time high.
Yeah.
You know?
Now it's learning to sift through it.
Yeah.
I think it's the one I'm seeing now is where people will have the information but have never been through it. So you can easily, like, they'll have it pretty soon. They already do, but it's an AI software that you can put a building in it and they'll tell you if you should buy it or not. I think that'll be a great screening tool for people who know what they're doing. It'll help them grow.
Yes.
But for a lot of people, it's this weird, how many, like, one of my questions was going to be like, what are the type of lessons you learned in that years 1 through 3 that now probably still happen today? You just know how to deal with them better. And I think that's the issue I've found with a lot of ours is like, sure, I can read about it, but until you're working on a 6-day or somebody that's 2 months delayed and I need to post notice on his door and he's not responding, well, the book isn't exactly good at telling you what to do there. So what do you think the greatest change in you has been from year 1 to year 10?
My like eagerness and desire to just be a kinder person and to meet people where they're at. I think that making decisions and kind of being very like solution based is something that comes really naturally to me. And I think that that's something that probably makes me a good leader. But I think that looking back to who I was as a leader 10 years ago and who I am now, when I handle just those common problems, none of those problems have gone away. They resurface and recycle themselves. And how I react to it, approach it, lead to it, resolve it, like, I feel like that's been the biggest change. And like, I feel like I'm just now getting good at it. So I don't know. I think that for me, it has been very much like I am like learning as I go.
Would you attribute that to some of that training more so, or just having gone through it? For example, we had Brandon Michelli on, super fun guy, but he would actually attribute a lot of his level 10 or his EOS system, entrepreneur operating system, to his growth now. Do you think it was a mix of those? 'Cause I think a lot of people shy away from because they see a cost of a coach or they see that, and instead of doing the math on where can it get me, it's, oh, that's too much up front. Let me just do this.
Yes.
But do you think a lot of yours was learned because you took those proactive steps, or do you think it was just from the experience of going through it and then, hey, I don't want to do that again?
No, I definitely think the investing in it and being proactive in it is what gets you out of the dark days. And like when the days of overwhelm and burnout and just like questioning yourself and fear gets in of like, should I be doing this? Or is this the right path for me? Or am I any good at this? But having those coaches and those mentors and that hardwired training, I think that is kind of what built like the athlete in me of doing it. Is it's like, no, you get up and you fucking do it. And like, you just keep doing it. And every single person that has a successful business that you look up to has walked through dark days, but they didn't give up. Like they actually kept fighting for that. And so I think that that's what differentiates people that succeed in business and have businesses that go for decades long, far past 10 years, to people who hit that 5, 7, 10-year mark and are like, I can't do this anymore. It's not worth it. And there's nothing wrong with either side. I think that understanding yourself and what your values are is obviously the most important part of it. But
they're definitely different paths. So I would say, like, listening to you guys talk for a minute, I've had two thoughts. One is I think there's a drastic difference between self-coaching and self-education and specific coaching or mentorship. Like hiring a one-on-one coach, and I do this, so maybe I'm biased, but like there's a difference, right? Watching podcasts and self-educating on YouTube or that kind of stuff is great, and I would definitely encourage people to go there. But I would say more times than not, when you get specific one-on-one coaching, then you start to coach to your issues or your problems. There's a pivot or a revolution that takes place. And you even see this with people that, like, you know, they've golfed for 15 years, but they've never they're like, oh yeah, I just kind of self-taught. I've never really taken a lesson. And then like all of a sudden they'll take a lesson. Someone will get them a gift card for Christmas or whatever. And they're like, oh my gosh, like that was actually pretty cool. Like, it's like, well, no, no shit, right? Like, but I think you have to lend yourself to that. There's a humbleness to it, and we put a lot of excuses in front of it, like I can't afford it, or I don't have the time, or I don't think it's going to change a whole lot. But specific one-on-one coaching, like again, there'd be a big difference between I think going to a Tony Robbins seminar and having Tony Robbins coach you one-on-one.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like it's just an elevation. But the other thing that when you guys were talking that I thought of is like, so much of this, I think, is not about so when you talk about Brandon, one of the things that came up for me is like, based on your behavior and who you are, you're going to need different things to help supplement or support your business to grow to the next level. Brandon needed like systems. Yeah. He was like an EOS guy, right? Like but he's charismatic. He's fun. I think he connects with people naturally. I think people like him. Yeah. He knows how to sell. Like he has all of these tools, but he needed like structure. Right. You can just tell when you meet him. And then he's like, oh, as soon as I found this, he's like, my business is just growing and growing and growing and growing. But when I listen to you, Danielle, talk and just knowing you, it's like one of the things that I think is really interesting is like what you just said is like how you do what you do, but you're so able to like meet people where they are and connect with people, but you're not just necessarily like this nice person who's nice to everybody, right?
I really have to work at it.
Because she makes hard decisions and she makes hard, and I know that you've hired people and I know that you've fired people and I know that you've, but you can do it with such kindness and she can meet people where they're at. And it's like, I always have envied that because I think, again, naturally that's one of your talents as far as like, you know, you could probably sit down and let somebody go, and by the end of it, they're like giving you a hug, and you're like, okay, like good luck in life, and they're like, see you. Like I sit down, I'm like, you're fired, get out of here, and it's like, you know, it's like one of those things where like I've never learned that skill, or it's like I have to try, right? And so what I see is like as far as your innate ability inside of your business, is a lot of times has to come back to your behavior, and behaviorally, Danielle, I think that you have a lot of that naturally, and I think that what I've seen from the distance is just you've had to learn like the ebbs and flows and the ups and downs of like the structure of business and like where the things that kind of bite you, hurt you, and like not make that same mistake again. But you do it with such grace, which is something I've always like kind of envied. Is I'm like, man, I don't have any grace in my role, you know, or has as much naturally. And so it's been really cool to watch. But what do you think your biggest weaknesses are around your business, or that you've had to work the most on? And where did you find that help? That's something I'm curious about.
My weaknesses are that I am like that golfer that you talked about that's just going to do it. And I think because I was good at doing hair and good at building a business, like I opened my salon and got going only literally because nobody told me no. And it just kind of was a ball that started rolling. I was so ill-equipped to be able to do that. And I remember listening to a podcast from you guys a few weeks back, but it's like in hindsight, if you actually were to tell yourself talk to the person who opened it, most people probably just wouldn't open or wouldn't go for it because there are so many risks and fear. That's like definitely where I land in the spectrum of business owners. And I think that my weakness is that I will stay frustrated, or I will stay mediocre for far longer than I need to, unless, and then now I'm getting into that habit of like, no, wait, now I know better, hire the coach, get some one-on-one training, get a little bit of support and move through this because, you know, speed and action is definitely on our side. I used to tell you that like, if I didn't know, I just wouldn't really do anything until I knew. And you told me once that indecision is still a decision. And I think about
I said that?
Yeah.
Wise words.
God, man, I'm so smart sometimes.
What happened?
And so it sticks with me though when I can feel myself like beating my head against the wall of being like frustrated with a certain thing. And it's like, how long are you going to be frustrated with this? Like, what are you going to change about this? And like, what can you do to take one small step forward to like make sure this stops happening? So I think, I don't know. And then also probably that I am direct and a decision maker. And I think I am a kind person. I am very nice. And I feel like
that's a morning affirmation.
Right.
It's
like, you are kind. You can be patient. You can do all of those things. But I think that I have to work on showing that softer side and that vulnerable side a little bit more.
Oh, I don't think so. I think that you're great at that.
Really?
But, yeah.
I've never been mad at you.
I mean, if you have, I probably, well, I would say this. I would say I either probably didn't know, which is a common trait of Keith, right?
Yeah.
My wife a lot of times would be like, man, you sure pissed your brother off at dinner. And I'll be like, I did?
Really?
She's like, yeah.
Were you there?
You're like, I could
I'd be
feel
like,
it.
oh, I did not. I was oblivious to that. Or like, how do I say this kindly? I'll just say it. I would say I either don't know, or a lot of times I don't care that someone is upset with me if I feel like the grounds are justified.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in like an adversarial way. I just mean a lot of times what I've learned in my business career is like there is a time and a place where a lot of times I have to tell people things that they don't want to hear.
Yeah.
And I know that it's the right thing to do or the best thing to do for them or the business. And you can still do it in a kind way. But you can't, what I can't control is somebody else's emotional response to me giving them information that they may not want to hear. And so that was a lesson I had to learn very early on, was like, I wanted so badly for people to like me. Yeah. And to, as a leader and a boss, right? I wanted them to be at home being like, oh man, my boss is so cool, or he's so much fun, or like, he's such a good guy, that it's like that in my mind would like erode at that. Like, oh man, I have to pull Johnny aside today and tell him that like, dude, he's not hitting standard, and like he's real close to getting like let go, or like I can't have this sort of behavior. But now is Johnny not going to like me or think I'm cool, or like how's that going to? And so at some point in my business maturity, you just had to realize like, yeah, he's probably going to not like to hear this at all. And a matter of fact, he might quit over this, or stay mad at me, or even go home and be like, man, that guy's a super big jerk. But I can't, for the sake of the business or for the sake of even that person, not just tell them that like, hey man, this is a chink in your armor and you don't see it and it's a blind spot, but this isn't going to land so well, but nobody likes you or whatever, like that. Yeah. But I'm saying like that's a maturing as a business person as well. And even
it's huge. Like that's the greatest lesson I learned, because I always want to be liked. It was just the innate in there. And I think generally probably was, but I realized it didn't move the needle forward. It doesn't move anybody forward.
No.
Being liked, being nice, like it's great. You can still be that. But I think where I've learned the greatest lesson is you can still be nice within the scope of getting to a goal. Yeah. And sometimes letting that person go is better for them than just letting them waffle in what they're doing. And I never believed it, because my brother Joel is direct. When you're let go, it's like, hey, grab your stuff, it's time. And he has a military type approach. Then they would always come to my office right after to plead if I could bring them back and be like, let me see what I can do. And I'm like, no. At this point, the business can't support or your position and how it goes. And it took me at least this last 2 years to just realize that, of like, I think I was doing people a disservice by just kind of bridging that piece, because then they never had to go out and try. They never had to research. They never had to put in that extra effort. And it just was an aha moment for me of like, I don't know, sometimes being nice is being mean.
Yes, 100%. I think being clear is kindness, and like, allowing people to work on themselves and like not just flounder, like you said, that really is the kindest thing. And I think in regards to like letting people go and like having to fire people, that is one of the skill sets that I did intentionally work on, because especially in the beauty industry, I take a lot of stylists like right out of graduation. And I have a whole program that helps build them and educate them, because it's pretty hard in the beauty industry. I think statistically, 80% of students aren't even doing hair within 3 years, and then even less after 5 years. And so to me, your first salon home, or your first couple of salons that you work in, have a huge impact on the trajectory of our industry. And I think that when someone lets you go and fires you, when you're first kind of trying to like get good and get new at anything, it can really like kill the vibe. And so trying to find that balance of still like uplifting somebody and being like, hey, maybe this isn't the right environment for you to thrive in. And even with your example of like having a realtor or something like that in your office that's floundering, it's like just finding them the right space or the right pace that maybe they can kind of get their footing and their confidence back. That is the best thing that you can do. And replacing that, or homing them, I guess, is it's not firing them. It's helping them get to their next opportunity.
Well, I love what you said about it being a skill set, because I think it is. And I like, so my fundamental pillars that I was talking about is like mindset, skill set, system, standards, right? Those are like my 4 pillars. But like skill set being, that is a skill set. And I guess that's what I was alluding to maybe more vaguely than what you were saying, is like, I've always appreciated that when somebody can go have a hard conversation, regardless of the the feels around it, but also not discard the feels. Because that would be that's what I would say. That would be my initial response is right. Like, okay, I have to give some hard news and the emotion is irrelevant. It's kind of like a doctor going to tell a patient they have cancer. It's like, hey, listen, I'm your doctor. I can't not tell you, right? I can't go in there and beat around the bush or leave the room and be like, dude, you didn't tell him? It's like,
he might know. I think he got it from there.
I think he got it. I mean, I told him there's something growing up there.
There was a side
really,
effect,
it's like, no, dude, like literally it's your job to tell them that they have cancer. But then the rubber band or reverb effect of that can be like, okay, well, I have to do this. And their emotional response is irrelevant. Yeah. So then you just go in there, but you're like cold about it. You're like, hey, listen, dude, you got cancer. It's tough. You're probably going to die. See you later. And it's like, well, that was a terrible way to do that. So again, going back to the skill set thing is I think there is a balance of recognizing that. And where I saw it in the real estate industry, I think the most like emotionally kind of mature but hard conversations I saw initially were like listening conversations with sellers over price. Yeah. It was always this weird conversation because people always want to get the most amount of money for their house, right? It makes sense. It's also a very emotional thing for a lot of people when they sell a house, right? And anything you say about pricing a house for them is a comparison. So it's like, hey, you're not going to get this much as you think because of this. And it's no, my house is nicer than my neighbors, or we're bigger, or we're, blah, blah, blah. They always want to explain, but there was always this conversation of like you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, don't dictate the market. Like you don't. I don't dictate the market. The market is the market. So the house is worth what a prospective buyer will pay. But you have to very delicately have that conversation around their emotion of their house without just coming in and being like, my friend Sally, who's a realtor, said it's worth $675. And it's like, my gut is like, well, Sally's an idiot. It's $610. I don't know what to tell you. But so it was this kind of, for me, it was an aha as a young agent that I needed to kind of like grow in my emotional maturity and my ability to have delicate, emotional, tough conversations, but yet not wane in them. Right? Because that's where I would typically go. It'd be like, I'd start. And it's like, well, the price is $625. Like maybe.
I know you want $750.
Like I'll bend it. And it's like, no, it's not. It's not. Like the price is $610. That's what the market's telling you. They want $635. Like you need to tell them. So that was always like a very, it was a hard thing to learn, but it was my first aha of that experience. But now, as you grow as a business owner, you realize, well, that's almost every important conversation. It's almost every important decision, whether it's a vendor or an employee or hiring or firing or a client. It's, can you have delicate and kind of important conversations in a way that maybe isn't 100% successful, but is a lot of times leaving the task done and the people feeling good about it, or as good as they can.
Yeah. Totally.
And coming out of it clear, because to your point, I think everybody wanes in between that point. I think that's why doctors have terrible bedside manner. You're just so used to doing it that you desensitize to it. And I've seen that version where it's like you take the person out. Well, mine is I try to do that. It's like convince myself, just give them the bad news. And then by the end, I'm like, want them to still like me, so I make it sound even better. And then by the time they leave, they're not even sure if they're fired. Not really, but like,
right.
But that's kind of my issue.
Like
that's
you start strong. You're like, you got a brain tumor, but then by the end of it, you're like, but there's a lot of cures and there's a lot of things we can do. And, it might be gone by tomorrow. And they're like, wait a minute.
And that's why I 100% agree with you.
You
take
take away the impact of what needs to be said.
I think like even my
investor
updates.
To make it,
They start with, hey, this. And then by the end, I'm like, but this and this and this and this. And it's like all these
trying to
parts
soften the blow.
On. Yeah.
And that sometimes erodes the messaging.
Then somebody's just reading that and they're like, oh, never mind. He's got it.
Yeah.
We got a plan. I'm like, no, you missed the first paragraph. Like, it's kind of a big deal. And I think that's one of the toughest ones when you say businesses don't last. They don't last because they don't have a leader that can do that. So I'm pretty impressed that you're able to do that. What do you think would be kind of the reason you've been able to manage it for 10 years? Kind of keeping them there? Because, I mean, I know you some, but like I know your business. Like it's well known. You've been able to grow it. You've been able to put the right pieces in place. But what kind of, I guess, better question here we go. How were you able to keep it and scale it to what you've been able to do? What do you think the greatest feature was? Like you and how you led people, the market, or just like what you were able to?
Oh my gosh. I think I think just being determined to do it and feeling like I don't really have I don't have a backup plan. I went to beauty school. I'm not good at anything else. Like this is it. And, when I opened the salon, my daughter was 9 years old and I thought I'm going to take this chance because I was a single mom at the time. And I thought this might be the one way that I can, give her a life that I didn't have. Fast forward. And so I used her and like her going to college and going to university specifically, because that's not an opportunity that I had, like as very much a North Star for me. And fast forward 10 years later, she's a freshman at university and living her best life. And, just being able to do things like that and feeling like, okay, I stuck my head down and I tried hard. But I think that just being determined and not feeling like I had any other option. That doesn't mean that there weren't days or times and seasons of my business where I didn't think about like not shifting or like figuring something else out. I definitely have had those, but that's not a very good answer.
I think you're spot on. I would say just knowing you from the sideline, it's like your determination or your sure determination to like succeed is a secret superpower, that I think most probably strong entrepreneurs and business people have it, whether they know it or not. But if you don't, you're probably probably not one very long. But it's also more prevalent in some than others. And I think just from watching you and what you've done, it's like that. Yeah, I think there's that kind of that burn that ships mentality of like when you don't have a backup plan. I think it's interesting that you allude to you like finding a North Star through like your daughter or through whatever. I think that's another important topic or concept that we don't talk a lot about is like what is your purpose? And I think that really is what it comes down to, is more like that purpose behind your business. I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs start without it, which is fine. It's natural because your purpose is to make money or to do your own thing or because it makes sense. But I don't think that you can sustain long-term business growth and development without true purpose or clarity around purpose.
Yeah.
And that big why.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people talk about that. I think it's also elusive in the sense of people will hesitate over picking one. And this is one of the things I talk to people a lot about is just like pick one if it will pull you through.
Yeah.
So, because a lot of times people say, well, my purpose is getting my daughter to college, or my purpose is like, whatever, making my parents proud. And then they might end up finding that like their parents could really care less and they weren't even that proud. And then that crushes them. They're like, what? I was doing this for you the whole time, right? If you're not first, you're last, right? But that doesn't matter, right? If that gets you through, then you can just find a new, like, she's in college now or university.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean all of your aspiration and drive have gone away.
Totally,
right? Because
no.
now
I'm
you
like,
can pick a new one, or
exactly.
But without it, I guess was what I'm saying is you can find yourself lost really quickly.
Well,
I do love business though, and I feel like not like separate from a hairstylist, like.
But I feel like that's been a learned love.
Yeah, a learned love. But and I think that maybe some of that adds into it though, is that I genuinely love like the business side of it. I love learning about my numbers. I love learning about data and like marketing strategies. And
for a while.
I didn't. No,
Right.
It was definitely like that muscle that you have to learn. And maybe some people, they get into it and they open the business because they love doing hair and they love their clients and they love the community of working with their besties. But then they're like doing all the paperwork and they're having a market strategy and they're having all these other things go on. And they're like, I don't want to fucking do this. I just want to go to work and do hair. So I think maybe that's part of it, is that in my journey, I have fallen in love with the just business. Yeah.
Which is cool. Yeah. Cause I think you get those hard points and that's when the business isn't enough.
Yeah.
The making sure the employees isn't enough. Like you hit these points where it just goes to that next level where North Star is a cool word for that, but unless you have that, like, I think that's where a lot of businesses go, because then all of a sudden it's like, well, this thing that's causing all this turmoil, pain, like I just need to get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you tie it to something outside of that, and that's what ultimately helped me out mine, it's like, this isn't about building a building anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's about building what I want out of it. So this is here. So even though this noise happens here, as long as I can get it from here to there and over time get it there, then it makes sense. And it was like this aha moment for me of like, I need to establish what that is. Like, I'm like, family's a priority. And then you look at my calendar and it's like,
totally.
Leave early. I'm home at 6. I see him for an hour and a half. And, and
Are
somebody's
you
like,
living
give
your
me
values?
your calendar. Yeah, give me your calendar and I'll tell you your priorities. And I was like, okay, so I need to take her to school more. And all of a sudden you're having these 30-minute conversations. And it's one of those pieces I think really helped me the most, where I'm thinking a little more like Keith, where when something's wrong, I'll dive in. I'll work 24 hours till I fix that problem. And then what I realized was I just didn't have the skill set to understand that maybe that's not even the problem. And how do you take that step back? And so my journey has been like, how do I not get in my business so much that I miss where I'm trying to still take it?
Yeah.
I think you can get in your business just as much. I think what you have to be careful of or just aware of is we can mistake goals for purpose.
Yeah. Good
right?
point.
So when you talk about your North Star, I say purpose, but like when you say like the purpose and the thing that will pull me through the hard times and will like make me really like have grit and bear down and do hard things is like this image of your daughter or helping your daughter get to college or whatever. I'm just using that as an example. It's easy to say, well, my thing is to stack, 200 clients or to stack 300 doors. And it's like, that will never pull you through a dark time. You'll never be at 297 going, I got to get to 300. It's just very rare because what you find in those things is like, those are goals. Yeah. That is a marker or a measure, or what I call it is like, that's a number on the scoreboard. Yeah. So at the end of the day, like, it's football season. I'm a Seahawks fan, so I talk about sports all the time. But at the end of the day, you want all the players on the field or the coaches to look at the scoreboard. And it is an immediate measure for them to see how they're doing. Yeah. Oh, the score is 7-14. We're down by 7. There's 2 minutes left. But nobody goes home at night and is driven by that, right? Like you go home at night and you're like, did I play the best I could play? Did I screw up on this down? Could I have put a little more pressure here? Could I, you'll ask yourself a whole bunch of questions, but you won't ask yourself the scoreboard questions. Yeah. The scoreboard's just the thing in the minute, right? So to me, those are more like goals. Like the goal is to win the game. But I think your purpose as a player is to like be all you can be or to be the best defensive, there's going to be something other than that's going to pull you through. Yeah. And I think that's where I think a lot of entrepreneurs, even myself or whatever, early on, you make the mistake of making your goals your purpose or thinking that your goals are your purpose. And they're absolutely not, right? And then I think that's where like the existential crisis or the questioning of your business in those darker times comes into play, because when you're like, oh, what I really want is just more time with my daughter, then you feel crushed because what you realize is you've done it wrong, or you've put other things that were scoreboard markers or goals in front of the thing that was really important, and now you have all this like lamentation or guilt over it. And so then the thing is to like reverb, right? Now you want to go home and spend every day with your daughter to try to make up for lost time and ignore your business. So this is balance, right? It's this balancing act. But I think the messaging I would get across for people is just, it's very, as you think about these things, it's very important to be aware of the difference between your North Stars and your purpose-driven things and your goals. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. And then kind of another one I wanted to dive into, because it is very similar than that way. It's running a brokerage. So we had employees, but then we had agents. And we definitely had to coach and train and move them differently. So how do you kind of motivate I'm going to call it the contractors or the people that lease the space? Because it's more than lease the space, right? Yeah. Because you'll benefit if they or if they grow and do stuff. But how are you working with them? Because I found that was a different personality type than somebody who was like, hey, I signed up to show up from 9 to 5. Yeah. I'm here to work. Let me know what to do. The agents are.
I don't know if that's a common like workspace for the real estate, but in the salon or the beauty industry, we call that a hybrid salon. And it's not super common. It's not unheard of course, but like most salons are either commission run or booth rental, right? You've got one or the other. Okay. And so for me, having that unique blend, I don't think there's very many hybrid salons in Spokane. That has been a beat to kind of figure out on its own. Today, I will say that the independents and the people that I have in there, it's because they crave and still value and the team and the culture and the aspect of that. And I think that they are stylists who are more seasoned, and they appreciate the like having the team.
Do you
environment,
coach them?
All of that. I provide a ton of training.
But for the independents as well?
For the independents, they're included in everything.
You just offer everything to everybody and they can tap more
and
into it.
And then they decide what they want to do. So some independents will really lean into me, and then some are like, I just come here and do my thing, and that's okay too. Yeah. So I don't because they are their own business. I don't have that, but I have it available to them. And I think that that's a benefit for them. I think that they're seeking a salon that has that. Yeah. And so it's about finding that right like chemistry with people that are in that phase of their business. But
so what's in that training program? Is it a lot of how to market yourself or how to provide the service at a better level?
All of it.
Okay.
So we do different trainings based on technical and business skills. Like this Monday, we have an educator from California coming in, and she's all about like business numbers and learning your profit per minute. So everybody in my salon will attend that, whether they're a W-2 employee or an independent contractor. And so that gives them all that skill set. Again, if they don't come, then they don't learn, they don't learn it. And so it's just kind of up to them. And then later on this month, we'll have like somebody come in and teach a color class or things like that. So I try to give a wide spectrum of that. And then in addition to that, I hold, team meetings and like culture groups every other month, and then monthly one-on-one meetings with anybody. And so I feel like I'm also very like in touch with each one of my people. And then I can kind of like build who we invite in based on what their needs are and like what season of life they're in.
What would you say? Because like culture is a buzzword, but I also think it's a really important word. What do you think is the greatest part about your culture that attracts people?
I think that I have like a laid back feeling about me, and like our team is, they're all cute, but if you look at them, they're all very still like individual. Some teams you can look at and you like can't pick out the person because they all look the same. I think that like we're still very like individual. And I think I'm fun. Like we do team bonding stuff. We do a ton of education. We do, and it's one of my stylists said that I heard you talk about Camp Craft. And that's what made me apply at your salon, because I was like, I want to go to Camp Craft. So it's like, I mean, I think that we just have fun. Culture is kind of a buzzword. So I think it's hard to pinpoint what that is, but I feel like it's just kind of your vibe. And it's like, how do people feel about working with you, being in your space? Is that the vibe that they're going for?
Yeah, I think you do a great job of that kind of that delicate balance of like because you're a sleeper in the sense of like you have these really kind of good business fundamentals and classes and trainings and this and that, but it's not like this regimented militaristic feel, right? Like it's not like I'm just making things up here because I don't know your industry, but I'm saying it's not this like Paul Mitchell salon where they're like, hey, you came in at 7:02, you were supposed to be here at 7, you're getting a tardy for the day or whatever.
Right.
Like you can train that way, and there's a lot of businesses and companies that do, right? Like, and they are successful, right? Like I think like Budget Rent-A-Car or like a lot of these places are kind of known as like breeding grounds for like corporate executives later in life. Like you get a lot of times, but it's their training, right? It's like this regimented. You wear a white shirt and you wear a black tie and you wear these slacks and you show like they're doing sales training or they're training people for like the next level of like corporate structure. But I don't think that it has to be like that. So I think what I admire about you is like, if you go in there, you wouldn't get that impression. Like people kind of have their own vibe and they're laid back and it's fun and you have this great culture, and yet you also have this sort of like structure and things that
it feels professional and it feels intentional, but we're not like cookie cutters.
But it's not like rigid. I guess would be the terminology I would use.
I'm glad you feel that. That's one of the best compliments that I can
because if
get
I
from a
did
client.
feel that, I would be out of there.
You would be like, I'm not
I'm
coming
like,
here.
don't touch my hair.
I can get a mediocre haircut
Mrs.
anywhere.
Roboto.
Well, because I think sometimes it happens organically. So it's less intentional, just like who the leader is.
Totally.
So, hey, like I remember when we first started 4 Degrees, for some reason, we were all new agents. This probably made sense. We'd go over to Iron Goat from like 2 to 5 and just buy beers. And we'd have 30 people there, just take up a table. And then now I look at them like we all have kids and people are selling more real estate. And
Exactly.
they're busy.
Not
but
the
then
day.
as we went, but some of the stuff just organically moved. And it wasn't until like year 4 or 5 that it was like, no, we need some structure. We need some structured training, some of those pieces. But is that something you knew right away, or did it just kind of organically happen? And you're like, well, wait, we should have this training.
No, it was something I knew right away.
Okay.
It was something that I opened my salon like 7-8 years into being a hairstylist. So at that time I had become an independent and was running my own business behind the chair. I also was an educator that worked for different brands. And so I would travel and teach color classes and extension classes to different salons. And so I was able to really see what was working and like so drastically different, not just in our market, but in other areas. And that was a really cool experience. And I wanted to educate and help stylists like move faster. So associates programs definitely existed when I got out of school. The salon that I joined and the associates program that I joined was super helpful, but it wasn't super structured. And so I feel like I took the good parts of what they did, and then I added a little bit more structure of what I felt like I was maybe craving at that time. So I feel like hairstylists we're all a little left of center. We're definitely creatives. And so learning that muscle of business and all of that definitely comes a little bit later. Yeah.
That's really good. Yeah. Cause like we basically didn't have a new agent training till like year 6.
Yeah.
Because in my world, I like a one-on-one. Like I don't want to sit in a room and you tell me if I make 20 calls, I'll do this. I need you to hear me call and tell me what I'm doing wrong. So our training was very custom, and we found it was just burning out our managing brokers because it was so intensive.
So much time for you guys to train and do that, right?
And so I would say we were very unintentional about the
culture.
culture.
You were very entrepreneurial. So this reminds me of a conversation that one of my original mentors, Gary Keller, taught me. It was called E to P. And it's hard to do it without a whiteboard, but I'll do my best. But he said, okay, so you have this journey from E to P, right? And what he would say is E stands for like entrepreneurial. And that's typically where most like entrepreneurs or small business owners start, is at like E. And the journey is you're going to P, and picture P being like in an upward trajectory to the right on like a graph, right? So the goal is to go from E to P, but P really stands for like purposeful, right? Like the purpose-driven type business. But he said what happens is a lot of times is like when you get into business as an entrepreneur, the E also stands for like easy, or you tend to do what comes like easy or natural to you. So the issue with a lot of young entrepreneurs and business owners is that their E is really high. And so in other words, you can have a fair amount of like really good success just acting naturally and what comes easy to you. So like just sitting at the table with both of you, like I can tell like Jordan and Danielle, like you guys connect with people, you can talk well, like you're fun. So you'll pick up clients and people like you, and so what happens though is that you can tell yourself this story that that's the reason for your success. And it is indeed the reason for your success. However, no matter how high your E is, or no matter how natural of a talent you are as like a baseball pitcher or a hairdresser is, it will only take you so far. And then what ends up happening is like you will kind of start to he draws a line in the middle of the graph and he calls it, this is the ceiling of achievement. So your entrepreneurial spirit and your like easy natural style will take you to a ceiling. And then what happens is you'll start to bump your head on that ceiling. So for like a real estate agent, I would say sometimes that's like 2 transactions a month, or maybe it's 1 a month. But like ultimately, if it takes me a year or 2 to hit the ceiling, because the first 2 years, it's just fun. It's like we're just meeting for beers. We're just hanging out. We don't even need a training program. We're all just doing us, and it's working, and it's like sweet. But eventually, it's like the salon itself starts to stall out or plateau, or an individual agent's like career will stall out or plateau, and you kind of start to bump your head on this proverbial ceiling of achievement based upon your just natural, easy flow. Well, then now comes decision time, right? It's like a lot of times what happens is that level of success actually is, and this is what I say separates entrepreneurs from business owners, is that ceiling is acceptable to you in your lifestyle. So there is nothing wrong with the fact that I want to get into real estate and I want to sell 2 houses a month, and that's going to equate to $130,000 in GCI. And $130,000 is enough income for me to like live my life, love my kids, have the things I want. And so I don't need to change. Yeah. I don't need to do anything different than just wake up and be Keith every day. Like I can just like drink beers with my buddy or laugh or joke or do whatever. But like it's only when that bumping of your head starts to either create boredom or disruption, or it moves down because maybe the market itself moves down or the economy tightens. But there is a pivotal decision where I have to, be bumping my head on this ceiling, and I go like, this isn't cool anymore, or I don't like it, or I want more. Well, now the problem is that the mistake most people make is they will double back down on E. Yeah. Meaning, these are all the things that got me where I am, and I'm doing 2 transactions a month. So if I want to get to 4, I have to double down on E. I have to be more fun. I have to be more exciting. I have to hang out a little longer at the bar. I have to meet more. But the reality is like any sort of activity will meet diminishing returns, right? And so what he talks about or taught me that was young when he taught me this, like 26, 27, but I remember it hit me like a ton of bricks, was like, you now have to start to act purposefully in your business. Yeah. It's not, and it's going to feel, he goes, well, if waking up every day and being Keith is easy and fun, he's like, what do you think purposeful is going to feel like? And I was like, restrictive, boring, awkward, all of the things that you don't like to feel or that you shy away from because having hard conversations with people is uncomfortable. So I avoid them, or having hard conversations and not just, rubbing them the wrong way is hard. So I do this. So it's like, so that was like this aha of like, listen, adulting is the realization that there's things in your life that will benefit you that are not going to come naturally to you, that you have to make the commitment to learn. But the benefit is that you can go back to having exponential growth. You can go back to having fun and doing your easy entrepreneurial thing later once you kind of break through these ceilings with purpose. And so to me, that was this huge aha as a young business person. And like I said, I think that's the dividing line between an entrepreneur and a business person. So I think entrepreneurs will hit that ceiling and either decide that hitting that ceiling is acceptable and they stay there and they kind of live in this easy entrepreneurial life. Or what a lot of times happens is that hitting that ceiling feels uncomfortable and they don't like it. But what they'll rather do than get purposeful is they'll just go find something else they can act an E in. So they'll say, okay, I'm an agent. I want to do 2 transactions a month. I can do that naturally, easy. Now I'm bumping my head. Well, I'm like, well, shoot, I want to make more money, but I don't really want to get serious. But if I go into financial planning, if I go into insurance, if I go start a side hustle with my buddy, right? They try to find a way that they can still act in E and find results. And so what you end up seeing is this like skipping and hopping through career fields.
Yeah.
Or the skipping and hopping through ventures, right? They never reach a level of really mastery because they're like, they don't want to act in that P, right? And I think that the glory, right, is when you can kind of start to look at your business and your life and your things and act purposely and kind of pull yourself through that ceiling and then go back. But that's that kind of like road to mastery, is like these like upward swings to plateaus and then more upward swings to plateaus, those more upward swings to plateaus. And you kind of get this snake trail up towards success. But that doesn't feel good a lot of times. And it's a commitment to things that you're not necessarily great at. But also it's something that I think over time you start to elevate your floor. In other words, like your ceiling becomes a floor, right? Like if you go to doing 5 or 10 or 15 deals a month as an agent, well, now I'm doing like 3 a month in my sleep, right? Now my ceiling is like my floor because it's like, well, I can't not do them.
Not do
right?
3.
Yeah. Anyways, it's really long-winded.
That was long,
I
actually,
love
but
that, though.
that's a good way. Visual. It's very visual.
Yeah.
And that makes a lot of sense.
I just remember being very impactful for me as a young business owner, and it's something that I've shared with a ton of other businesses. I think I've even done it for Danielle and her salon before, but it's one of those things where I was like, if you want more, you have to be more, right? And going back to your story of like what got you here won't get you there, is like that's that kind of aha. Like you can't just continue to do what you're doing and expect a different result at some point when what you're doing is either not working or not where you want to be.
Yeah, and what I found was that as I went to different businesses, I don't know that I was skipping through them. I think my plan was just build the real estate, but
I just like mentally like envisioned you skipping.
It's pretty awkward actually. I'm
George's just
like,
skipping
like
down to
me
Brick
Dan.
West, and then he's just skipping over to 4 Degrees.
Yeah, if you ever see me around just skipping downtown, you'll know it was a good day.
Yeah, he's skipping.
But it was one of those pieces where I looked through it, it's like, but the problem followed me. Right? The problem I ran into in real estate would follow me to a brewery, which would follow me to the next one. And until you correct it, that is like, so when I see a ceiling, it's usually something inherent in what I was looking at. But I think that that's been the biggest the last 2 years, is like diving deep into each of these and really getting to know them and using the word mastery instead of like I do. Right. And I think that's been the greatest growth side of mine. And that's where I'm realizing, man, to be really good at all this, it's time, it's commitment, it's step by step. It's a lot of that work, because I was like, I basically could grow any of them pretty fast. If you told me today, Jordan, you're going to leave today and start an HVAC company, I'm pretty positive I would make a sizable dent in the community within 12 months. Now, the question is, will that sustain to month 84, 7 years, 10 years down the road? And that's where I was finding the greatest weaknesses were, where I can get something running, the passion's there, excited, you're getting it rolling. Year 2, still kind of there because you're riding growth and momentum. Year 3, still there, but then now all of a sudden you're getting complaints. Hey,
well,
Jordan,
almost
we
like
do this.
turning ceilings into floors can be the goal a little bit. And so you're not actually executing in that purposeful state. You're like, I'm just climbing this ladder. And I'm just
and
like
more can
shifting
become
up there.
more.
Exactly. So it's like finding that like, okay, now that I'm here and I've mastered this again and I have a new floor, what is really going to take me to the next level? What's going to keep my North Star intact and not just like conquering an HVAC or conquering the financial side and pivoting. And I think that that's one of the hardest parts, especially today, because there's so many side hustles out there and there's so many different things. Playing comparison and like seeing other people's success quickly, it like sparks something.
Well,
for
and one
you.
of the reasons I'm so passionate about this topic specifically is because when I coach people, that's what I hear a lot of times is this, like, so first of all, I want to dissect, like, you've been in the same industry for over a decade, right? We've been in very similar industries for over a decade. I think there's a big difference though between what I call like a freelancer or an entrepreneur or a business owner, where like there are people that succeed really well and do really well in a startup phase, and they just go from startup to startup to startup. You see this in like Silicon Valley, right? Like, but they know themselves and they know their strengths well enough to go, I'm the startup guy or gal. I can start with a company and we can start with the ideas and the marketing and the processes and build the systems. And by the way, by year 2, my skill set or my value for the company is going to be tapped out. Because I'm not like a day-to-day operator. I'm not the same person who works at a company for 20 years or 10 years. I am the guy who's going to go start another one and another one and another one. I think that, though, the danger I see in that, though, is I feel like that has bred a culture of people who think that that's success.
Right.
I think there's a lot of like 4-hour work weekers out there, or there's a lot of like sexy new startup, social media, start a business, become a millionaire in 3 weeks. But it's not necessarily the same thing as being a good business operator or an owner operator, especially in one industry for an extended period of time. And it's also not as plausible. I think it's way more likely that you take over your uncle's plumbing company and run it for 30 years very successfully than it is that you go start a company and make $40 million in the first 2 years and then do that and that and that. That's the likelihood is way.
But business failure is like 80% in your first 2 years. And but this is why. It's because that wanes, that honeymoon wanes. At some point, it gets hard and it's not fun anymore. And you're having employee complaints, not growth complaints. You're having client complaints. You have spatial complaints, right? And I think that's the piece is when you seem to dive into it really well and we're intentional about it. Mine, same thing. I guess I kept hitting my head. I'm like, okay, that means I need another one. That's how I'll keep this energy going. Then I can work on this, but I have this thing that's creating the fun now. And then by the time I look down, I'm like, we've created 5 monsters. Like, I need to tame this beast real quick and get this figured out. And what I found is that just for a year dove into each and we're like, okay, nope, it's just steady, plateau, set a new floor. It's almost like rock climbing.
Yeah.
Just belaying. I just put the new hook in.
Yeah.
So now I know that's going to be the bottom.
Let's enjoy the view for a minute and figure out where we're going rather than just being like, okay, we're here. What's next?
And that's where our culture is pushed is like, if you're not an instant success, did it work?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think any of them were instant successes.
Yeah.
Well, or it's just not sexy or cool. It's boring, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I guess that to me, as I gotten older, is maybe something I appreciate more or I chuckle about more. Is I get a ton of amusement out of the dude that sits at the restaurant next to you that's been running a plumbing company for 20 years that is a multi-millionaire and isn't flashy about it, doesn't talk about it, isn't sexy, and does the same thing every day and literally, plumbs pipes. But there's something weird about a guy pulling up to the same restaurant in a Ferrari and with 3 cameras and doing selfies. And, it's like that is the image of success that we're looking at. And you're like, that guy's net worth is a quarter of this guy's net worth, right? But it just doesn't. And so I don't know, like, I'm not trying to judge anybody's like hopes, goals, dreams, or aspirations, but I think there is a misnomer with success between like what mastery and success can look like versus what it's been portrayed to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's when, going back to kudos to you, Danielle, is I think staying in the same industry for over a decade and really committing to your craft has been a huge secret to your success. Because I haven't watched you get super distracted by a bunch of side hustles or anything like that. Like I would say you're very committed to your...
I have no side hustles. Like I said, I'm not good at anything else except doing hair.
That's probably not true.
That's not true.
No, I don't. But I do think though that I've had, and I have the same confidence as you, Jordan. Like you said, like I can go open an HVAC company. Like I have the confidence of a queen. Like I literally feel like I could start a scrunchie company tomorrow and I would dominate the scrunchie industry, right? Because I understand the fundamentals of business and marketing and whatever. But I think what is so fun about staying in your lane and becoming a master of it is when I do get that eye or that boredom, or I'm like, okay, well, what are they doing? Rather than finding something, to the left or right of the beauty industry, I try to like just go a little bit deeper in my craft and be like, okay, well, how can I stimulate that boredom or like needing more money or whatever with the resource, my greatest resource that I already have. And that's the momentum that I've already built.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that mastery and like that's kind of that's the rub of greatness. So when you look at greatness across almost any industry or any metric, like that's the anomaly, right? Like those are those kind of like unicorns or people that just stayed committed to their craft, but reached such a level that like it just seems so amazing or unobtainable to anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, but that's a lot of times the secret, the underlying secret. Like I was watching an interview the other day about Tom Brady. Or not about Tom Brady. Tom Brady was in it. He does announcing now for the NFL. And it was like a cold or rainy game or something. And so the announcer started talking about like the quarterback's ability to throw and this and that. And so Tom Brady starts breaking down like how he would throw the ball differently based upon like the weather. And he was talking about like how he would put his hand forward on the grip. And he's like, well, if you throw it at a downward trajectory, and I'm just making this up, or he'd be like, if I put my hand further back. And you could tell like the other four announcers were looking at him like, what is he talking about, right? Like they had never heard somebody talk like but that's how much of a master of his craft. Like he didn't go start a bunch of side hustles. He didn't try to change positions. He didn't really try to change teams, but he like, even to this day, it's like, I guarantee you like half of, if not all of the NFL quarterbacks that are currently quarterbacks could sit down with Tom Brady and like, they're like, I don't even know what he's discussing right now. Like his ability but that's how deep he went. And I think it's easy to chalk those people up as like, oh, he just had the talent or the skill, or he was an anomaly, or he was just a highly talented. It's like, no, that guy was so far down the rabbit hole of his craft that he literally 10 years in was changing the position of his finger like 4 centimeters to see if he could get the ball to spin a certain way if the weather was below 32 degrees. And you're like, what? Like, there's enough going on when you're playing football that it's like, give me the ball, I'm going to throw it, right? Like, I don't know. But I think that's kind of the nuance or the I say disconnection that a lot of times happens, which also makes those people. I think the caveat of that conversation also is like people have to ask if that's what they want as well, and so it's like I think we've all probably had this experience. Like, have you ever met someone really successful and you're like, man, I want to be like that person? And then at some point you get a glimpse into like that person's life or what they have to do to be that person. And then you're like, man, never mind. Like, I don't know. Right. Yeah. And it's because like we all from the outside in we want what they have. We don't necessarily want to do what they have to do to get there.
Yeah, totally.
Right? Like how many people want to own the salon, Danielle?
I don't know. Probably lots. But
Lots.
I think a lot of people want to be salon owners, and business owners. But do you want to do the work? And that's just such a different.
The consistent, the hard, the boring, how do you want to truly do the work to be successful in the role, not just have the title?
Yeah.
Not have the accolades.
And I met with a college student this week, and the question I always get is like, what advice would you give me? It's like my advice for a year was like, just don't do it. Like, just stay out of it. You'll be fine. But when I'm watching you,
Jordan
it's like
was having a moment.
Yeah, I had a moment for sure. But I was sitting there and I said, no, I think the only advice I'm ever going to give now is focus. And I was listening to a podcast today. It was when you have $100 million, you can go diversify. I think I was telling you, you can go diversify. You can go buy racehorses. You can be Tom Brady and buy into the Raiders. But he didn't do that right away. He hyper-focused on being the best quarterback he can be. And so for me, and I think he said it's not diversification, it's divorcification before that. It goes because what will happen is you're getting pulled in so many directions versus if you just focused. Mm-hmm. And so he came to me like, do I wholesale? Do I go get a job somewhere? Do I start flipping houses? And I was like, no, pick one. Pick one.
Yeah.
Get so good at it that you either tell yourself this is what I want to keep doing, or it builds you in a spot where you can look at that next level. And I think what I lacked initially was that focus. So it was super easy to get distracted. Like on yours, when Keith asked, like, what else would you do? You're like, I don't even think you thought about that. You're like, I'm just going to build this better. Mm-hmm. I'm going to make this machine better. And then you'll hit a point where now you have the discretionary income. Now you have that ability. You're like, okay, now I want to go do this.
Yeah.
And I think I jumped that ship so fast that there was so many lessons that can be learned with just focusing.
Yeah.
And removing distractions and removing those pieces. And so
the coolest part about hindsight though is like knowing that your story is totally your story, and like your dreams and aspirations really are to like help and grow and do all of these things, and to be able to even have a podcast and be writing books and impact people. I think nobody's going to listen to a guy or buy the book of somebody that's just, it's gone well for them the whole time, you know? So I think that's also the hard part of entrepreneurship, is being brave enough to walk through the hardships and saying like, I'm going to loan these lessons to the next person so that they can run faster than I did, and appreciating that part of it too.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I got through them and realized I don't actually like real estate. I don't actually really like beer. I don't actually really like the gyms. What I actually like is the concept of creating something. And so what I would have done different, back to focus, was, okay, if that's what I love, like, how do I create a better system that can expand to these different areas? How do I, and really focus, which it's been the last couple of years now, but if I would have done that to begin with, it's super interesting side. So it's not even that you love that piece of it, but as you go through it, when you're not distracted, you're able to really look at that thing.
Yes.
And I think that's what I wasn't able to do. But when I watch how you built your business, it's exactly what you did. Because it probably would have been super easy to open your third spot, second spot, third spot, start expanding because you're successful, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's like, well, no. I remember I bought a second office for us because we had 145. We were maxing our office. And I should have been like, no, there's just no offices. We'll figure out, or we'll lease, or we'll, instead it pulled me into, now we're renovating the building.
Yes.
Now I got to go focus spending 8 of my hours on a day renovating versus helping new agents.
Right.
And it was just this weird aha moment of like, yeah, what is the focus? And realized I just didn't have one.
Yeah.
So
that's hard. I mean, I appreciate you guys hearing my story and thinking that I had good focus, because many days I feel like I am, you know, just kind of like prioritizing and figuring it out as I go.
Yeah.
But yeah, so.
Well, and it's not that you did it perfect or anybody else did it perfect. I think it's more of like sharing the lessons that we know now. Like for me, 2 lessons speak super loudly. And one is that success is sequential, right? And I think that was an aha that a mentor, Brian, brought to my attention as well. Sometimes he's like, Keith, when you look out in the world and you see the business people who have the things that you want, you have to understand that they didn't get all of those things by starting them all at once. But that can be a huge misnomer for young people. Yeah. It's like, okay, you know, my Uncle John has like rentals and he has this restaurant bar and he has this, you know, whatever. And so we think, well, then I'm going to go out and become a mortgage lender and a real estate agent and a bar owner. And like, if I just do all the stuff my Uncle John's doing, then I'll have the success my Uncle John had. And it's like, well, no, he layered that over 30 or 40 years. Like initially he was just a mortgage lender and he did that for 15 years. And then he got a real estate license and did that for 5 years. And then he opened a bar. Like, and so I think sometimes we just go like, oh, we'll just do it all at once. Yeah. But like, that's what they do. If I do what they do, and it's like, we forget the journey or the sequential order of it. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's one big aha. I think the other big aha for me is like, success is easy. Success is simple. It's just not easy. And I think that all of us have understood that like really it's success is very simple when you boil it down. It's basic fundamental principles and things. It's just not easy. It's not easy to come in and do the same boring thing every day. It's not sexy. It's not fun. But yet it's simple, right? It's like, well, Jordan, just come in every day and same 4 things.
Not rocket science.
You come in every day and do these same 4 things. Like, I promise you, you'll be a millionaire in 3 years if you just come in and do these same 4 things. Yeah. I haven't been able to get, 5 agents out of 400 to do that in 20 years, right? Yeah. Because it's just, you always tell yourself the story that there's a quicker way, there's a faster way, there's an easier way, there's a sexier way. And it's like, it's really this simple, right?
Yeah.
Like, lead generate every day, keep a database of the people that you've done business with, drip on that database. It's like, dude, 3 things, 4 things. Yeah. You do this every day, you're going to be fine.
So I'm curious, what are the 3 things or 4 things that you do every day to stay on track?
Well, so that's a really good question. It's also a tricky question. I'm not trying to speak out of both sides of my mouth, but I have sequentially grown now. So in other words, what I come in and do every day is not what I would tell someone to come in and do every day to be successful where they are at. Yeah. And I wouldn't even tell them to do it if they wanted to be where I am at. What I would tell them is to do the 3 or 4 things where they're at that's going to get them the most impact, to give them the highest likelihood to get where I'm at or to get where they want to go. And that is like a coaching thing for me. That's when I'm coaching, I'm always coaching to a person in a moment, because you can't just use the same principles with everybody all the time because they're not in the same space all the time. right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a mistake that a lot of us make, especially as business owners, if you train.
Yeah.
Because we will tend to train we'll have a training or a program. And so we say, hey, everybody come next Tuesday and I'm going to talk to you guys about how to read a profit and loss statement. Well, this stylist who's been in the business for 6 months is in a totally different place than this stylist who's been in for 6 years, 6 weeks. And it's like, but we tend to kind of teach or speak like that. And then the messaging gets necessarily lost or doesn't land as well with different people in different spaces. And then we, as leaders, get frustrated because we're like, well, shoot, I've done this same meeting every year on the second Tuesday of February. And for 2 years, it went great. In the last 2 years, it hasn't landed at all and no one's implemented anything. Well, totally. Messaging didn't change. Training didn't change. Audience did, where they were at did, right?
Yeah.
So what happens a lot of times is we get frustrated and then we stop doing the training altogether. Right? Because we tell ourselves the story that the training is bad when really it was the messaging match to the person that was bad. Or the other thing that happens is the people in the audience discount the messaging. So if I try to teach a 6-week stylist, like a 6-year stylist, they will discount the messaging because they're like, this isn't even relevant. It doesn't make sense. It's not moving the needle in my world. Problem is there's gonna be a time and a place where they need to hear that messaging, but they've already discounted it mentally. They've already been like, oh yeah, I heard that. I heard that when I first started. And it's like, well, yeah, but now it's landing, right? So it's very, it's difficult, I think, for us to, but I think the trick is to make sure that that's where you're doing. And I think that you do that really well, is meeting people where they're at. But I have to constantly remind myself.
But you still
of
have
that.
basic stuff you do, like to that effect, right? You may
Yeah,
not,
so that was my
yours isn't like,
long-winded way of not answering your question.
Yeah, because it's not like you still have at your level what you do. Like on mine, what hurt me the most was when I was trying to tackle it all, I just kept looking at it all. And so my daily now is I grab 3 things today. Now what sucks is to the people that think I should be handling that and what I found was when I try to do all of them, I get none of them done.
Yeah.
So then today, met in the morning, I'm like, here's my 3 things today I have to accomplish. One of them's to show up to the podcast. That's
Check
a good one.
one.
Next one was close a loan. The next one was solve a capital piece. And I was like, so then today, my
But those are the 3 priorities for today, but those are not the 3 things you do every day because you don't podcast every day.
But every day I show up and set those 3.
Right.
That's the thing. So every day for me now, instead
one of the
attacking
things
it.
you do every day is set your priorities for the day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that's kind of where the book concept came from, was the idea was like, I just need to pick 3. Because what's happening is then you'll call and be like, hey, Jordan, there's this over at Peyton Building. I'm like, I can't worry about that today. And so then what it's allowed me to do is like, nope, today I'm hyper focused. And now all of a sudden I'm getting 3 things accomplished a day. Whereas before I kept thinking I was. So mine now is that. Second one is just educating. So then now I spend a good chunk of a day like just learning as much as I can.
Really?
Yeah. And so just because I think there's so many nuances that I've learned through this now and how to apply those pieces. And then the third piece now is kind of just so it's set those pieces, educate at some point in the day, and then 1 relationship a day. Whether it's a call, a text, a meet for a drink, whatever it looks like. And then ever since then, and then it's like each day you kind of leave it feeling like you're successful. There was a good podcast we did just previously. I think Keith said it the best way was like, as you tell yourself to do those things and miss them, you slowly erode your mental confidence that you can accomplish those things. And I think too many people do that, especially starting out as an agent, because you get so much rejection. There's so much uncertainty. There's so many different pieces. And you start understanding, hey, this next call is going to go the same way as the last call.
Yes.
Or the next piece. And so for me, I was like, man, I think all this taught me is just simplify it so far down now and then have that be the focus every day. But
Well, success is simple, not easy,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Do you have your 3 or 4 things that you do?
I think similar to you guys, I think that for me, getting my morning started, like that is a huge success point for me. So getting up and meditating, moving my body and having that time before I go into the work salon or my home or anything. It's like, you're going to get the best version of Danielle if I move. And then prioritizing, I do the same thing. I kind of look at my weekly list of things to do. And it's like, if I only can accomplish 2 or 3 of those things, what's going to move the needle the most? And then for me, trying to connect deeper with my team, my family, or I reach out to a friend. And same, like I want to feel that balance of like, that people feel like I'm showing up for them. I think one of the things when you own a business is our friends and family are so amazing, but we disappear for seasons, right? Yeah. And so I think that that's something that I'm trying to be a lot more conscious of, is like putting in that effort and making them like, I'm not too busy for anybody.
Yeah. And that was the hard part I realized after doing it intentionally was everybody's like, oh, we just thought you were too busy.
I don't love hearing that. When somebody says, I thought you were busy. I know you're busy. It's like, I'm really not that busy. You know, I am, but it's like, I'm not too busy for the most important thing in your day right now. But also on this flip side of learning how to not take, you know, that call and be like, what are we doing today? It's like, this is my focus. We can prioritize that later.
Yeah.
So
for me, it is, and I say this because it rhymes. I remember it. But it's set, rep, regret, and forget.
I love that.
I know. So yeah. So I'll break it down for you. So set is setting, like you guys are talking about. But for me, it's very similar to Danielle. But you're gonna get the best version of Keith if he moves. For me, I always like joke around. My wife says, maybe you just need to go lift something heavy. Like that's her. Yeah, like from being a jerk, she's like, why don't you just go lift something heavy? Because so I have to move my body. I have to work out. I like to lift weights. I like to do whatever. But so I will every morning I set, and so my set is typically like a mindfulness practice or a meditative practice, and then a moving of the body, whether it's like a ruck or whether it's a lift. So like that's my set. Right. And then rep is I just go and rep out the things that I know I need to do. I go have the conversations I need to have. I need to check the things I need to have. Like I check my marketing. I check my leads. I just rep out my things. Now the regret is funny because I hate the word regret, but I do it because it rhymes. So it's set, rep, regret, forget. So the regret is reflection. And reflection just doesn't rhyme as cool. No. But what I try to do is end my day similar to how I started my day. So typically somewhere in the evenings, whether it's before I get home, like I'll do it sometimes before I leave the office, or if it's after, it's usually way after my kids are to bed, I will journal. And the journaling practice is not just a diary. Like I don't just like woke up at 6, walked the dog. Like it's not necessarily. It is more like just a reflection on the day, what went well, what did not go well. But really, are there any things I could have done different or better? It's a reflection, right? Because what I find a lot of times is like the reasons I have a hard time like meditating or quieting my mind or even going to bed at night is because I'm running this play in my head again and again and again. I'm looping. And it's because there's things I'm unsettled about that like I can't get off my mind.
You can't go to bed with a heavy heart. Like you gotta kind of
or I'm just like I'm just angry or I'm upset or I'm like, you know, I'm trying to think what I could have done differently or said differently. And so for me, that's that rep or like so it's set, it's rep, it's regret, which is reflection, and then it's forget. Yeah. And forget is the thing I have to be able to do before I put my head on a pillow or I won't sleep.
Yeah.
I have to be able to go like you know, and it's not all bad. I use bad examples because people relate to them, but like, you know, good day or bad day, it's like, it's easier not to necessarily forget a good day, but it's easier to go to bed after a good day. It's a lot harder after a bad day, but I think, you know, for me, it's that quintessential example again of like a quarterback who throws an interception. Yeah, like we've all seen it. Like we've all seen an interception thrown at the wrong time and like the crowd, everyone just goes, oh, like, oh my gosh, right? As that quarterback, you cannot dwell there for like 2 seconds. No. Like you absolutely can't. And I think that's the difference you see them in those pros is like they're literally like they walk up. They don't even. A lot of those quarterbacks, right? Like I get mad because like they don't even seem that upset. Like you'll watch Aaron Rodgers throw a pick and then he just kind of like undoes his chin strap and walks over and you're like, how's he not throwing his helmet or jumping up and down or whatever? And it's like because he just knows like he absolutely can't play into that moment. Yeah. And I think that's something I've learned for like my mental well-being or health is like. For too many years, I just carried them day in and day out and day in and day out, like baggage, right? Like that proverbial donkey that just keeps getting loaded down with more bags. And pretty soon it's like, now that whole E to B conversation takes a different turn. Yeah. Because like it's really hard to even act in E or be entrepreneurial or easy or fun when you're so loaded down with like I know who Danielle is and she's the life of the party, but all of a sudden if Danielle comes to my party one day, but I say, you need to come to my party with a 50-pound like backpack on, it's going to be hard to like bounce around or dance or be jovial because you're just weighed down. And so if, like, for me, that was the forgetting piece is like, I had to move past that. So like, that's kind of my little mantra every day is like set, rep, regret.
That's really good. Yeah. I do that one in the morning.
I guess it could be reflect. I don't know, reflect this doesn't rhyme.
Yeah. Regret, forget.
And it makes people ask, why
set, regret, forget.
I love that. Yeah. And I kind of like the idea of doing it at night too, because I feel like sometimes that is hard to go to bed with stuff filling your brain, you know?
Yeah. Well, and even like sometimes I'm journaling things that are just totally, again, this is life stuff, not business stuff. So, like I'm journaling things that I'm proud of my son about. Like, oh my God, like Tate said the funniest thing today, or this was so funny. Like Charlie did this thing. So it's not all like business.
Yeah.
There are things I want to remember. There are things that I just like, I'm interested in. There's things that just happen. But there's also times where I'm like, I'm talking Keith through like Keith's world of like, what did I learn from today?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just the joy of like a moment. Sometimes it's actually something tangible of like what happened. Never do this again.
I like that you journal though. And I've heard you say that you journal a lot too. I think that that's like one of those time capsule gifts that you can give not only yourself, but your children too. And I think that.
Nobody's reading this journal.
Yes, no, you're not. At some point they will.
I better be dead if they ever find it.
Well, I think that it would be really cool for Tate to one day read, that my dad used to think about me every night, and obviously you would do, cool. But to be able to have that and read your memories and those special things, because you always think, I remember thinking that when Dakota was little, like, I'll remember this forever. How can people forget? Oh, it's really easy.
It's super easy.
Like after a few years, it's just out, And so I think that's awesome. That's a great
not to start a whole nother tangent, but I always think it'll be interesting when I die now, because we're probably one of the first generations to have had a phone for an extended period of time. So it'd be like, if I ever died and you just took my phone to go through my phone, like photos,
that would be such a capsule. Yeah.
Because it's like, dude, you have so many. I mean, how many people have that? We all have those baby books our parents kept, but they were like, usually they stopped by like 7 or 10 or something, But I'm like, you have your whole life on your phone, right? Every time you went fishing or on a vacation or whatever, it'd be like, that'd be insane, I think, for have your, like, even my parents were like, but it's only a portion of their life. Yeah. I think for us, it's like, if my kid ever had my passcode to my phone and I died tomorrow, I'd be like, well, you're going to get to see a lot of what your dad, did or what, because it's like, it's all there. Get rid of the duplicates though. Yeah. What's with the triple takes and everything?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's something that we just do. Like every time you take a picture, you have to take like 7.
Yeah.
I'm like,
just
you never would have done that with a Polaroid.
No.
It was a one and done.
Which those are back in style now. I got my daughter one for her birthday recently, and I was like, I remember when I had the digital camera, and then they upload it, and so fun. Oh man, everything comes back.
Well, Danielle, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you guys. This was so fun.
Yeah, we'll have to have you back. That's my goal with these is like, I hope to do like some podcasts and then be able to do like almost like a reunion tour. Like I think it'd be cool in like year 3 or 4 to just like invite back the year 1 guests, and it would be like the where are you now thing.
Yeah.
Or like what,
See how it's changed. Yeah.
Brennan, mark that down. 2028.
2028.
We're recycling.
Yes. Well, thank you so much.
Yes.
It was
Thank
a
you.
blast.
It was so fun.
All right, you guys. Thanks for listening to today's episode. While you're out there, would you please do us a favor and give us a like, subscribe, or a follow, whether you listen on Spotify, iTunes, or YouTube. We'd really appreciate it. Also, if you don't mind while you're there, give us a 5-star review. Maybe write a review. If you have a favorite episode, feel free to give it a like. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate it.